Should have, we reckon, by our rubbish maths, that we might have about 200 people on this one. So 50 households. So we're going to have to really work hard to keep you all in order based on previous experience.
So are we muted?
Yeah, if you would mind muting, please. If people could mute, that'd be brilliant. And we may request some of you to give us a song later, something. Or if we get boring, you can take over. Or some of you guys have been on there before, so you probably know more about the cheeses and wines than we do. So we might hand over to you at some point. So be prepared. Tony, if you can mute that. Oh, I can mute you. I think. Oh, that's it. Brilliant. That's good. No hands. It's good. I've got to be careful because my wife's actually on here tonight, and I get the opportunity to mute her as well, which is a rarity. But now I'm in trouble. I've said that, so. Okay. Well, we've got 49 households in. I think we're going to get to the magical 50, and then we'll start saying something. Here we go. Mel. Okay. Okay. Hello, Mel. You are our 50th participant. So we're going to keep an eye out for others. But, oh, Sam's coming in. We'll let Sam in. Okay. Good. Anyway, you're very welcome. For those of you who've not joined us before, my name's Greg Parsons. I'm from Sharpham Dairy.
I'm Tom, and I'm from Sharpham, St Andrews Barton Wines, as we are becoming. We'll go into that.
We'll go into that. We'll go into that. So we'll start with a bit of housekeeping. So yes, please stay on mute unless we instruct you otherwise. Please feel free to graze, right? We've done some of these. We've got all of our cheeses laid out, honestly, all here. Look at that. We're all ready to go. And we advocate grazing as you go. We don't want you to wait for us. And what we'll do is when the time comes, we'll taste each cheese and the wines. And we're going to freewheel a bit tonight, because actually the wines and the cheese and the beer that we've got, they do work with each other quite well. So we're going to sort of freewheel a little bit. Yes, other stuff. Hopefully you know how to use the chat. If you don't, on Zoom in the bottom of the screen, just click on the chat button, stick it to I normally stick to my right hand side, because we are going to have a couple of quizzes throughout the evening with prizes, just to keep you awake and stimulated, obviously. And it would be handy for those quizzes if you have got a pen and pencil handy. Pen and pencil? Pen and paper. I'm going to start drinking it. Oh, going to be trouble. Yes, a pen and paper or pencil and paper ready. So because you'll need that for the quizzes a little bit later. What's that?
I'm just going to let someone in.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, yeah, Tom, yeah, with teamwork in here. And then just in terms of sort of with time-wise, we're going to try and wrap up by about 8:30. But let's see how we go. We won't, if we're still having fun, then we'll keep going all night, really. But yeah, that'd be good. You'll be bored of us by then, I'm sure. Just a few welcomes, really. So welcome to old friends who've joined us for these events before. It's great to see you again. And yeah, we hope that we can entertain you with a few different things this evening, as well as some of the old jokes, which I know you love. Welcome to obviously to new friends. Actually, it'd be good if you joined the event before. I mean, actually, sorry, another tip. In the top right-hand corner in your view options, you can view the gallery, so you can see a lot of people. So you can see the ones that sort of peak a bit soon. And so if you want to make sure you're on that setting, it'd be good just to get a wave, perhaps, from the people who've joined us before. We better put ours on, Tom, so we can see. Yeah, oh, that's good. Yeah, there we go. Good.
Few returning faces.
Excellent. That's good. Okay. Then just continue the hello. So this is the family and friends cheese and wine tasting. So I've got a few family on here this evening. I've got Sammy in Devon. I've got Molly, Dan, and James in London with friends. As I said earlier, my wife Nikki, who's going to tell me off later, out with friends out in the middle of Devon. A special hello to my beautiful granddaughters, who are watching this evening, Matilda and Maggie. They're also in Devon. And then we've got a few of the team watching. So we've got Peter, who heads up the cheese making, Sarah, who claims she does everything. We haven't worked out what she does yet. And then we've got Harry and Andrea, who do a brilliant job on our marketing side, social media and our PR. And then I think, show of hands, anybody been on dry January at all? Well,
There's a couple.
is there? Can you see a couple?
There's a couple.
I
There's
think-
a couple who sort of went like that and then realised they'd broken it a few days in.
Silly question, I guess. But perhaps a little round of applause for those that have been on Dry January. I think might be in order. Good. Yeah, I didn't make it this year. Too much going on. Okay. So we're just going to let Joanna join us, and then we better get on with the event, I guess. So what the plan is for this evening is we're going to start off. We thought it might be nice if we sort of shared our day at the dairy, and Tom's going to share his day at the winery today. So we'll run through that, and then we'll run through the wine and cheeses. And for those who are just joining us, as part of the housekeeping, we recommend that you graze and drink your way through, save some to taste with us, so we can compare notes. But 2 and 1 waiting room. Okay, here comes John and Nicola. Oh no, I'm not going to message them. I'm going to admit them all. Right. Okay. So I don't want to block anybody out. Right, they're coming in. That's good. Okay. Good. Yes. Sorry, people arriving. Okay, people arriving. Graze. Don't wait for us. We're going to run through a little bit about our days. We're going to run through the cheese and wine. We'll allow some time for questions and answers, and then we'll run a little bit of a quiz, and then we'll see if there's anything else to do. And if there isn't, then we're going to go off and enjoy the rest of our Friday nights. So, without further ado, just going to sort of share a little bit of insight into us. Peter and Victoria joined. Well, this is Peter, who heads up our cheese production, is joining us late, so he's going on holiday next week. I must remember the disciplinary when he gets back. So here he is, right? He's responsible for everything some of the stuff you're eating tonight. Okay, good. Right, everybody can hear us all right? Bit of a thumbs up. Brilliant, that's great. I'm going to just try and fold that over. Right, we're going to start off just by sharing with you a bit about our days, and hopefully, Chris and Sarah are joining us. We'll let them in. Right, I think that's got to be us now, 54. Okay, so let's share a little bit of, well, actually, to start with, we'll just share a bit about our year. Okay.
Tend not to ask for.
Okay, didn't like that, so we might have to.
Help, you're wrong, I'm strong, I can do it all on my own. Falling from grace, I fear. I gotta be the best, I gotta test myself to prove I'm not insecure. I'm living for the words I heard, a face, a place, a lifetime ago. I know I can do it on my own. I know I can do it on my own. To get bored, the endless midnight dreams set me free. Can only move as fast as the water chooses to carry me. Waking, flaking, agitated, give me your energy. Take your time till the candle burns at both ends of this party. We still hope, we will cope with it all. We still love, we still hope, we will cope with it all. Live in this time only. Live in this time only. Live in this time. Tomorrow can wait for now. Would you hold me? You know I really hate to ask. Would you show me? Sound of the clock as it ticks and it talks and account the blessings we are. They'll come and end, my friend, and oh, what a journey we've known. We will cope, we will cope, we will rise on this path, in this earth, in this time. And with hope, all we can do is try. And with love, it's enough. We will cope, we will cope, we will rise on this path, in this earth, in this time.
Okay, right, we're going to admit one more. Hopefully you can still hear us. We've got something in the chat. Happy birthday, Maggie. Who is the artist for the backing track? Sound of the Sirens from Exeter. Lovely girls. Look out for their music. Right, let's get to what we're up to today, if it will work. There we go. Okay, cheese. Good. We like cheese. So this was Sharpham this morning. It was a beautiful day in South Devon. Yeah, we love taking photographs on days like today, but that's the dairy. That's the view from the office window, which is not too much of a hardship. Oh, and we're noticing that already the mornings, because obviously we have early starts, and the evenings are lightening a little bit. So it's one of the signs of spring that I love, and I'm just going to share this with you, is when we just start to hear some noises.
Woodpecker.
It's a woodpecker, woody woodpecker. So that was what I heard this morning, which is great. Can never see them. Well, in fact, I think I did see it this morning, but I'm not sure. Bad eyesight. So what I thought I'd do is just walk you through. So at Sharpham Dairy, some of you have been, I'm sure, and you can look through the windows and see what we're up to. But I'll walk you through this quite rapidly because we want to get to the cheese tasting. But this takes you through the order of events, really. So what it all starts with for us is where the milk comes in, raw milk from farms. As you will know from previous presentations, we have our own cows, all picked up in Sue, truck, or delivered by our farmers. And we bring in milk every day. We don't make cheese at weekends, but milk still comes in. And we have 2 different milk tanks in here, which allow us to produce 2 different types of cheese and sometimes 3 cheeses on the same day. So I'm just going to move on. So there's some of our cows there. Johnny and Marina Watton, and Grace and Tommy, their children, they look after our cows just like at East Brawl. This is Dorothy in the middle, who was born last Christmas, not the Christmas just gone, the Christmas before. So actually in under a year now, we hope that she'll be giving us her first milk, which would be great. They're Jersey cows. They produce excellent milk for making cheese. And I'm over there trying to look as if I know what I'm doing, but if truth be told, I'm probably just looking at the football results or something like that. And this is my daughter Annie, who loves going and looking after the cows as well. And Johnny and Marina also have some of our goats, but have more of their own goats that provide the milk for our goat's milk cheese, or goat's milk ice cream, actually, which we started making this morning because we had a bit of a problem with one of the paddles in one of the tanks, and the milk started to freeze. So not too much, got over it, because we like to get over problems, and so we ended up making cheese with it. But we had goat's milk ice cream for a while. And on the event tonight, we've got James and Jade Watton, same surname, no relation, and little Adele here. And they're lucky to be here, and they might have to run out halfway through because their sheep are just about to start lambing. And although we've got washborn on the tasting tonight, only just this is the last washborn that we had in the place, because literally you can only get sort of sheep's milk for about 6 months of the year, but it will start soon. So if they have to leave this halfway through, and these are some pictures from today and a couple of older pictures, so you can see the girls in the sort of maternity ward, looking a bit chubby and a bit unenthralled with it all, which I'm sure that some of the ladies on the event can empathise with. So that's Jade and James. Very welcome. So next along the wall, if you imagine you're walking past the dairy now, you'll look into the make room. And what we're going to do in the make room is we will heat treat the milk. We heat treat our milk, either thermise or pasteurise, and then we send it through the wall into the high care area. And that's when we'll start to add our starter cultures, our rennet, and we'll add our, mainly we use Penicillium candidum, which is our moulding culture. And we'll talk a little bit more about cultures later. And what that's going to start to do is to actually separate the curds and the whey, which is an essential part of cheese making, as you'll know. This is Peter. That same finger is put to good use in a minute, where he's pointing at me there. No watch on that arm because you're not allowed them in the dairy. Obviously, he didn't put it back on today. That's why he was late on the event this evening. But that's Pete. And so what Pete's putting his finger to good use here is that when the milk is set, when it's acidified and set, essentially, it's down to the cheesemaker's skill to judge by literally lifting the junket to see how the curd breaks, as to when we can start to cut the whey, the first junket, to then release the whey. And that's the first part of the cheese making. So making savour here today. So that's what you can see in front of you. So Pete's put his finger in, clean finger, I emphasise. Nikki's there, is cutting the curds, and then you can see just the cut curds to our right here. Just going to admit Karen, very welcome. So we'll just move along. And so one of the things today, so with savour, we make that the same way as we make our washborn cheese. and it's called a washed curd cheese. So what we'll do at a certain point, when at a certain temperature, is we'll actually take out some of the whey, and we'll introduce, as we're doing here, really hot water, so 85-degree water. And what that'll do is relift the temperature of the whey to about 40 degrees. And that will just have the effect of just making the curds go a little bit rigid. And it seems to help them to knit together, because the end cheese, as you'll see with our Washbourne and later and with our Savour, is you get a sort of nice supple texture to the cheese as it ages. So that's what happens with washed curd cheeses. So then we'll move up to the brining room. So we have our brining room. That's how we add the most of our salt. We hardly add any salt during the make process, but most of it comes from the brining process, which is basically sending them for a swim in these baths for somewhere around an hour, depending on their size. And then we'll send them off into our ripening rooms, of which we have 2 principal ripening rooms. They're at different temperatures and different levels of humidity. So our soft cheeses live in one, and our semi-hard cheeses, like the rustic we're going to try later, live in the other. Spencer here, who's in our packing room, looking like he's up to mischief, and then Claudia's obviously doing all the work in there. So with another review, another HR issue to deal with sometime soon. But yeah, we hand wrap all of our cheeses. It's a very artisanal handmade process. And that's really what I think our world is all about, is adjusting ourselves to the different qualities within the milk as they change, adjusting the cultures, and creating products that we think, are, whilst they're never the same twice, really sort of follow a theme and are quite enjoyable to eat. So that's your packing room. This was our dispatch stall when we were sending out all your boxes. It filled us up somewhat. So thanks for your help in filling up our dispatch stall. And then just a bit of an advertisement is for those of you who love each other enough, you can say it with cheese and wine and chutney and crackers while stocks last. So on the website, we're doing these little packages, beautifully wrapped, courtesy of Nicky and the team. What was that? Oh yeah, there. No, and actually, yes, another advert. Please watch closely if you're a cheese lover. There you go. Brilliantly produced by Andrea Veal Productions on the call tonight. Tony wants the job. He's raised his hand. Let's see what we got. Tony, can you just pop in the chat if you would like to.
This is the best one made to have with the chutney.
Oh, we also got somebody unmuted there, but.
Who's unmuted? Is it us?
Is it us? Yes. Okay, cool. Right, now I think I'm gonna stop talking about cheese now. I think I'm gonna hand over to Tom. Oh no, one other thing. Oh, this is sort of hot news at Sharpham today. Is we've got a new addition to our fleet. We've got Pickle that's joined us. Pickle the pickup obviously goes nicely with cheese. Joined our stand the van. And Sue, as I mentioned earlier, hi Sue. You can see from the number plate there. So joining our fleet. So soon be dressed up and fitting, ready to hit the road. So let's go with this. And that, so just a nice segue to Tom is this is where Tom used to be busy, running around like a fool, getting people to taste lots of wine and cheese here, selling lots of cheese and wine in the shop here. And then what did you do in the office up there? Did you do a lot up there?
Not a lot,
Not a lot, right? Okay, but there's news. So, oh goodness me, I'm in there. Look. I'm typing that in there. There we go. So hand over to you. Talk about the wine. I'll drive you through.
Yeah, so Greg's going to take us through a little slide of some photographs that I took today, and it's been quite a monumental week, really, for us, because on Tuesday we actually left our home at Sharpham Wine after 40 years, and we also left our neighbours Sharpham Cheese as well. So yeah, the old sort of Monday morning meetings with a glass of wine and a block of cheese are sort of going to be a little bit trickier now because we're downriver. But yeah, so really end of an era. As many of you know, I'm sure, we're going through a big transition and moving to our new home, only about 2.5 kilometres downriver from Sharpham. to our other larger vineyard at Sandridge Barton. And Greg just brought up a before and after shot here. So in 2019, our new winery was looking pretty sad. But by the end of 2020, just in time for harvest, we completed the build on the winery, which you can see on the right. And we've actually, well, 2 harvests have happened in our new winery now, 2020 and 2021. And what we're currently doing is trying to frantically pull together the build of visitor center, shop, restaurants, event space. So unlike Sharpham, our new site is offering us a lot more scope, a lot more potential to welcome people. We have buildings with walls and heating, so it's going to be a little bit more comfortable to visit tastings. And on this shot on the left-hand side, this was taken this morning at around about 9:30 or so, and this is the Lower Well stream that runs through the Sandridge Barton site, and this actually supplies all of our water as well as rainwater harvesting. So part of the new build is really has sustainability kind of at the heart of it. It's totally self-sufficient, and every little drop of water that we do use, wastewater, it goes through an aerobic digester sort of bio bubble thing and puts it back into the stream exactly the way it should be. And then there's a little bit of an overview on the right slot from we call our LOL vineyard, our labor of love, which we planted in May, and you can see it's overlooking the whole site. An old dairy farm, there's a lot of old sort of dairy industry in South Devon. So we're repurposing all of the buildings, reusing, recycling as many of the original materials as possible. And I believe we've even got a huge mural of a Jersey cow going up in our restaurant as well. And of course, really kind of going forward with our historical relationship with Sharpham cheese as well. They're kind of moving it into a new chapter, basically. In terms of what's happening, this is going to be the restaurant, and typically, probably the reason why behind schedule is Greg said go out and get some photos of the builders working, and I could not find one builder for love or money, even though there's meant to be we're being told about 25 to 30 of them working on site each day. So probably why it was meant to be completed in November, and now we're pushing for the end of February, but we'll get there. We're aiming for a spring opening, but that will be a nice sunny courtyard. And then what we're doing today is we're doing some disgorging. So part of building a brand new winery and having a little bit of investment as well means we've been able to purchase a load of new equipment, and a few small jobs that we weren't able to do in-house in the past, we've now bought in-house. So on the left, this is an automated riddling machine. So the bottles go in with the dead yeast sediment, and every hour it rotates a little bit. And with every rotation, the bottles become inverted, so that after about a week, all of the yeast sediment is settled in the cap of the bottle. We then put it into the photograph on the bottom right for about 2 minutes, which is like a very cold brine solution, which freezes that settling, the lees that settled in the cap, so that when we turn the bottles upright, like you can see in the top photograph, the lees is all frozen. You can't quite make it out, but there's some sort of a darker plug you can see at the top. When it's all frozen like that, we move it on to the next shot, which is...
Just going on?
Yeah.
Oh, that's that. No.
Oh, he hasn't done it.
Isn't that one there?
No. So anyway, the next shot, basically, we got a little automated machine that pops the cap off, which therefore shoots the frozen block of lees out at the same time, and therefore clarifying the wine. So that's what we've been doing today. But this wine is actually a very unique wine. We've never made one before. It's called a col fondo. So it means with the bottom. So we actually leave a bit of that lee sediment in there. We have never made one before. We've only got 400 bottles. I took a bottle home, so I'll be tasting that tomorrow night. But from what I've tasted already, it's tasting pretty good. But it's going to be a bit of a cellar door special if anybody's local.
Good. So on the subject of sediment, your bottled beer tonight, the Panda, the lovely Panda, is a bottle conditioned ale, and I think it comes off. You can show it anyway. But I think so you need to be careful. You need to pour it carefully because there will be some sediment in the bottom. Tom will touch on that a little bit later. So I think just before we bring our ugly mugs back to you, I think we're going to give you just a taste. So this is not the prize quiz, but it's just to test if your cheese knowledge. So what we'd like you to do is just in the chat, and it's also to test if you can use the chat effectively. If you just want to just maybe let us know what you think these cheeses are. So cheese number 1. Anybody want to have a pop?
We've got number 6 there.
We've got number 6, Manchego, nailed it. Number 1, quite right. Roquefort, not well. It wasn't on spelling, so that's good. What about number 2? Anybody? Halloumi, very good. Using a lot of cheese jokes. Number 3, we should know that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, mozzarella, got it. Number 4, very good. Feta, Parmesan, and we already have Manchego. Yeah, yeah. Well, we thought they'd be good, so I think that's PowerPoint for us this evening. So we'll let that rest. Get back and do some work. Okay, good. Right, let's leave the chat up there. We can see you. That's good news. Okay, good. Well, I reckon that we should get on and taste some cheese. So the cheeses you've got this evening are the ones you expected. But as I said, we did scrap around to make sure you had some Washbourne this evening. So our guilt made us put in a few extras for you, but also because obviously we know you're really nice people and want to look after you. So you've got some rustic and chive in there as well. So a bumper pack of cheeses. And I was going to suggest that from a cheese perspective, we kick off with the rustic. Because our rustic is a beautiful, delicate little cheese. Gets a lovely colour from our Jersey milk. Texture-wise, a little bit crumbly, a little bit like a Cheshire cheese. And in fact, from a taste perspective as well, you get that sort of citrusy, lemony flavour like you do with a Cheshire or with a Wensleydale. But actually, on the back of that, I think you get a little bit more sort of a creaminess, which is delivered through the use of the Jersey milk. So I'm just going to give our rustic a taste. Ours has been out for about an hour and a half, so it's coming to room temperature. If yours is still a little bit chilly, hold it on the top of your mouth with your tongue and it'll warm up, or just rub it through between your fingers as long as your hands are clean, obviously, like Peter's, and it will warm up quite nicely as well. I'll give that a taste. So I think we should have a little dabble of wine with that, Tom, just to set the tone for the evening. What would you recommend with the? Yeah,
so it's quite I don't know. We always sort of one thing we find with the Sharpham wines and with the cheeses is they were kind of created together alongside each other, with the Brie being the first cheese that was ever made at Sharpham, and a still dry white wine made with the grape called Madeline Angevine, which actually still takes up the majority of our plantings. And tonight we do have a bottle of Madeline Angevine, and actually I suppose quite fitting really, because this new release, which is 100% Madeline, is probably, well, actually is the last parcel of fruit taken from the Sharpham vineyard, as the Sharpham vineyard will go back to the landowners, and we're actually not sure if they're going to keep it. So this potentially is quite a historical bottle. And the new release is really quite unique. It's an early release wine, as the name implies. And this year, 2021, it was released after only about 4 weeks. So we pick it from vine, we bottle it, and then it's released. So a really short process. And the reason we do this is to try and really give you a taste and a sense of how the harvest was, and also the grape variety in its freshest form as well. Okay, sorry, just going to go back. This is for Harry. So the first cheese we're trying is the Sharpham Rustic, which was one of the extras. It's the little one without the bits in it. And recommended chutney. Well, I mean, we picked the red onion and rosemary thyme because it's a real, it goes with everything. So for us, it's the only one we've got as well. So, but you know, I mean, try it on its own first, please, and with the wine, because with a cheese as delicate as the Sharpham Rustic, you know, you will dominate the flavour with the chutney. It works brilliantly together, but it will dominate flavour. And interestingly, just if you have a bit of rustic left over, never be afraid to freeze cheese, but also I froze some and brought it out, and when we were the fridge was a bit empty, and I grated it onto some cheese on toast and just cracked some black pepper across the top. And I tell you, it's one of the best cheese on toast I've ever had. Seriously, no, so yeah, I feel like I'm always being biased, but it was delicious. And it's funny how milder cheeses work better than really strong cheddars and such like on toast. I mean, I love strong cheddar, but milder cheeses seem to work better. Okay, we didn't get any rustic. Oof, sinful. Well, I'm sure we can rectify that afterwards. Sorry, can we confirm which cheese? Oh, that's okay. We're up to date on the chat. So those two together. So if we're going to try them together, then
ordinarily pop a bit of cheese into your mouth, and then follow it with the wine is what I would do. Is that what you do?
Yeah, so I usually like to sort of taste the cheese, enjoy the cheese, and then I'm going to see how it changes the wine. Greg mentioned about the rustic having a slight little citrusy tang at the end of it, and that's one of the reasons why it goes so well with Madeline Angevine. Madeline Angevine has a real nice kind of lemony acidity to it. One thing you might notice about the new release 2021, really vibrant, almost slightly confected on the nose. It almost has this kind of tin peach kind of characteristic, and a little bit floral. It usually has real nice sort of fresh elderflower characteristics, and that's actually really typical of the Madeline Angevine variety, which originated in the Loire Valley. So not a million miles away from us, but really fresh, really bright. Some of the acidity cuts through the richer aspects of the Jersey milk, but also the citrusy acidity in both the wine and the cheese really harmonize and work nicely together. So hopefully that's going down well for everybody.
Okay, good. So we'll just move on and just note this, that the rustics were an extra, so we will rectify that situation because there's a couple of those popping up in the chat. I thought next cheese worth trying would be, with this particular wine, would be the Washbourne. So Washbourne is a sheep's milk cheese. Sheep's milk is extremely rich and creamy, so you need a lot less milk to make a lot more cheese. So ordinarily, as a sort of a rule of thumb, you might take sort of 10 litres of milk to make a kilo of cheese, and with sheep's milk it can be as little as six litres to make a kilo of cheese. So you get a lot more yield, but consequently you get a lot less milk out of a sheep, surprisingly enough. And so, you know, it's not that we should switch everything to making cheese with sheep's milk. And also, as I said to you earlier, it can be a bit scarce for 6 months of the year, because ordinarily sheep only like to work or like to milk for 6 months of the year. But so Washbourne is a wash curd cheese. As I said earlier, we strain off the whey and add scalding hot water. That gives it its supple flavour. And what we love about it as well is Washbourne is great if it's just 3 or 4 weeks old. This is actually about 6 months old, and it still has that really nice, rich, creamy flavour. The texture is just a little bit more, I suppose, a little bit more crumbly, a little bit drier than it would have been in the early days. Yeah, it's just a gorgeous cheese. It's so in demand, very frustrating, because yeah, we'd love to, or we could sell more of it, love to make more of it, but it is what it is, makes it a bit special. And again, you know, I thought it might actually go quite nicely with the fruitiness of the.
For me, it brings out more of that kind of herbaceous side of the wine. When you taste the wine after the Washbourne, I get more of those kind of like grassy, floral, elderflower characteristics coming through. Whereas with the rustic, I had a lot more of that kind of lemony citrus flavor. So that's kind of the idea of, you know, what we want to do tonight is we want people to try the wines with different cheeses, see how it changes, you know, with each different cheese. And obviously people will have preferences. Some people will prefer it with the Washbourne, some people may prefer it with the blue. So it's really interesting just to see, yeah, I suppose the journey that it can take you on across the range.
I've got an update for you. Text came in. Pete, obviously off on holiday next week, but was not looking forward to his coming back. But he said that you either have with you either have a rustic or a rustic with chive and garlic. So you should have one or the other. So we'll talk about both, but you will have one. Should have one other with you. But so there's a question coming about the rind. So as I said to you earlier, you may remember when we make the cheese, we add Penicillium candidum is the rind creating culture that we add for all of our cheeses. So it creates the bloomy rind on the Camembert and the Brie, and it creates the rind you've got there on your rustic. And yeah, perfectly edible. I mean, some people prefer not to, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's still vegetarian. So unlike with cloth-bound traditional cheddars, where the rind is actually is lard, so that's not vegetarian. So don't recommend eating that. But the rind's perfectly edible with cheese. Sometimes it can create a different experience. So some people will have a bit of the middle on its own and then eat the two together. Just, you know, I guess if you haven't got variety like we've got, it makes life more interesting, but perfectly fine to eat the rind. Okay. elderflower is bang on. There you go, Tom. That's accurate. That's
Yeah,
good.
it's a real characteristic of the Madeline Angevine variety. Really quite delicate, quite floral, and I don't know. We sort of see it as one of our signature grape varieties. And the Sharpham vineyard was originally planted with Madeline Angevine in 1986, and although we're losing the Sharpham vineyard, which has about 7 acres of Madeline in total, we still have probably the best part of 15 acres of Madeline Angevine over at our Sandridge Barton site. So it's certainly going to continue to be one of our main sort of flagship grape varieties. And the new release, one thing I didn't mention, we always release it on a very specific day of the year, the 3rd Thursday of November, which some of you may remember as being Beaujolais Nouveau Day, which I've heard used to be a bit of a party, unfortunately a little bit before my time, so I'd quite like it if someone brought that back. But we always release it on the same day, basically to try and outsell the French Beaujolais in the village of, in the town of Totnes, where we're from. So yeah, it's got a bit of a cult following, this wine. So hopefully you can all see why.
There's nice comments in there about the chutney. So the chutneys are made for us to recipes that match our cheeses by a little company called Hillside Foods, based about 4 miles from here. Yeah, they do a great job. So thank you for your compliments there. Now,
Question about penicillin before it goes.
Okay.
Tacky one.
That produces the rind on the cheese is present all the way through the cheese. So it will. Oh, that's Peter. He's trying to be clever now. Jeepers. Okay. Well, he is the expert.
Do you want to come and sit on this chat?
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Everybody have a look at the chat. Pete's showing off in there. So I'll go back to his finger pointing picture and remember who he is. Anyway, right. So on to the Camembert. Right. We're so excited about the Camembert. It took us the best part of a year to firstly create a recipe that we really liked, and then find some time to make it. And so it was our 40th year last year, as you remember from the video earlier. We wanted to create a cheese to commemorate that, and thought, why not a Camembert? So here it is. The 2 ways I've got to show it tonight. Some of you might have baked it. Has anybody baked it? Any show of hands? Yes,
oh, there's a few people.
Yeah, I baked mine, but I forgot it. You might have seen me rush to the oven just now. I sort of, mine's a bit too melty. But I shoved some rosemary in mine from the garden, and a bit of olive oil on top, and it's looking absolutely oozy and delicious here. So I mean, you know, it is all liquid, but I guess that's the idea. But so do you want to have a little delve in there, Tom?
Right.
But yeah, for me, I mean, about 10 minutes on about 150 degrees with your favorite sort of additions on there, and maybe dip it in.
Soup, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, the delicious. So question that normally gets asked is, what do we do differently with the Camembert that we do with the Brie? Is essentially, although we use similar cultures, not identical, and then the proportions of which are slightly different, we use more of a culture called Penicillium geotritum. And we also cut the curds on the Camembert less. So it's essentially, it retains more moisture, and it will ripen quicker. So optimum age for eating Camembert really is at 5 to 7 weeks old. These are just coming up to 5 weeks old, so at the lighter end. And then as they age over the next couple of weeks, they'll really start to pick up those brassica notes, like those cabbagey notes. And again, what you tend to get with our Brie as it ripens, it's normally about 2 weeks older than the Camembert. It'll start to develop mushroomy notes, whereas with the Camembert we get far more sort of cabbagey notes, really. So yeah, so I'm just going to tuck into this a minute and let Tom think about what we do with the wine with this.
That's good. We've actually got one baked Camembert and one unbaked. The difference in flavour is actually quite, well, it's quite intense, isn't it? It brings out way more of that kind of cabbagey character when it's been baked, like you said. Again, with the Jersey milk, it's such a rich cheese. And a lot of people quite often overlook white wines when it comes to pairing cheese. And sort of there's this kind of, you know, whole habit of just going straight for the red wine and the cheese. But really, white wines are so great at pairing with cheese. And hopefully you can see that here. That nice fresh acidity is just going to cut through all of those real rich notes, really give everything a bit of a lift. So again, the new release is really kind of really cutting through that quite nicely. A few of you obviously don't just stick to the new release. Try the beer, try the Pinot Gris. I will get onto those wines, of course, at some point. But yeah, at the moment, I'm just really enjoying that new release because it's just that real kind of laser-like English acidity just cutting through that beautiful Camembert.
And so what you'll see with the Camembert, I just put that up there, is that it will ripen from the outside in. So you can see that under the rind there, it's getting nice and soft. And then as it ages over the next sort of 2 or 3 weeks, that will gradually work its way to the middle. And then, you know, by then, each time you open the fridge, you'll get a reminder that it's time to eat it, I should think. So I can testament to that. Good. Okay, let's move this back. Oh yeah, you can taste the
difference between the two is incredible.
Mm.
We'll have another one.
The one that's baked is slightly younger, so we recommend the baked Camembert. You can use it slightly younger because Tom said it's sort of the flavours enhanced anyway with heat. And then the Camembert on our board is a little bit riper. So I just cleanse my palate. Talk about the next cheese. So what's been nice for us during lockdown is it's given us the opportunity to work with some of our neighbours, like us. You know, everybody was a bit concerned through the various lockdowns, especially in the early days. But we've got some great cheesemakers. I mean, we've got across the country, you know, over 700 varieties of cheeses made in the UK now, which is amazing. Some brilliant artisan cheesemakers throughout the country. But in Devon, we've got some really great producers. And one of the people that seem to have been around forever is Quick's. Mary Quick and her team, you know, make some fantastic hard cheeses. They've been milking cows out in Newton Sires since Noah was a lad, I think. And they started really, they're part of the revolution of cheesemakers post-war. They really came back with a vengeance and started making great traditional cheddar to start with. And then in recent years, they've expanded to make great goat's milk cheeses and many other varieties too. So we generally have a Quick's cheddar on our board, either a younger one or an older one. But we thought for a change tonight, and to match with the wines, we'd pick an alternative cheese. So we've got some Devonshire Red. So Devonshire Red is made, it's made to a sort of a traditional red Leicester recipe. It's aged a little bit longer than a traditional red Leicester, or sorry, than an ordinary red Leicester, because red Leicester gets a bit of a bad reputation. It's generally regarded as a cheap cheese that's sold as a territorial in with the sort of the own label cheeses, whereas actually it's a great cheese when made properly. And these are made as traditional rounds as well. So yeah, they will be muslin wrapped and larded, and these are aged for about 6 months. And what I find is you get with this particular cheese is you get a lot more of the sort of acidity come through. So you get a really nice citrusy flavor that comes through. And again, I mean, a bit like I suppose with the rustic, you know, the milk. Mary has her own cows. They're not Jersey cows, but they are special cows that have been bred specially for rich milk to make cheese with. And I think that comes through in her cheese as well, as you get that real creaminess and denseness to the texture as well. And the color is a vegetarian tropical plant called annatto, which is used widely to give the cheeses an orange color. So let's just have a taste of this. I've worked mine down to a really sort of a smooth paste.
I'm just going to answer a quick question now whilst Greg's chewing. Is there a name for the fizzy feel in the new release? It's basically the new release, you might know, has a bit of a spritz to it. That's some dissolved CO2. Because it's such a short process, sometimes a little bit of CO2 left over from the ferment. And we like that because it gives it a little bit of a spritz. So it's part of the style that we make.
Good. You try that?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah?
Really good.
What are we going to drink with it?
Well, I think I'll introduce the next wine, and kind of, we didn't plan it like this, but we've got obviously the orange cheese, and we're going to pair that with the orange wine.
Oh, orange wine.
Yeah,
orange wine. Oh,
which is our Pinot Gris wild ferment. And if I hold it up to the camera, you should see a nice kind of ambery color to it there. And the Pinot Gris wild ferment 2020 is actually the newest wine to the Sharpham range. First made in 2017. So this is 17, 18, 19. This is our 4th vintage of the Pinot Gris wild ferment. And I'll be totally honest with you, this one does sometimes cut the corral down the middle. It is the Marmite of the Sharpham range. But I think sometimes, mainly because it's a little bit misunderstood, really what I mean when I say orange wine, some people may be familiar with it, is essentially you take a white grape variety like Pinot Gris here, and instead of making a white wine out of it by just pressing the juice away from the skins, we leave the skins in contact with the juice for a prolonged period of time. And what happens here is you're going to extract some of that pigment from the skin. The process also exposes the wine to oxygen, which starts to bring in that slightly orangey color. And also you get the skins that will break down, releasing their flavor, and of course breaking down and giving you the tannin, the texture you get as well. So essentially, in a nutshell, we make a white wine, but in the way that we would a red wine, by leaving the skins in. This wine is totally natural in many ways. It's spontaneously fermented with indigenous vineyard yeasts. It's pressed by foot. There is no filtration, no fining. So you might notice it's a little bit cloudy and it may have some sediment, which is all totally harmless. This is basically grapes taken from our vineyard, pressed, I was going to say by hand, but by foot, and just left to do its thing. And pairs really, really well, I think, with the, what's that cheese called again?
Devonshire Red.
Devonshire Red. It brings out a really nice kind of fruity, almost like kind of grapefruit, orange rind character in the wine. Oh, sorry,
I'm taking it away there. I think it's fine. Just got to make an apology to the people from Leicestershire. You can see there. I mean, not a lot of red Leicester is made in Leicestershire anymore, and you're quite right. This is a great red Leicester style cheese. And actually, there's the Red Fox, which is made at Belton, which I don't think is in Leicestershire. I'm not good at geography, but I don't think it is. But it's absolutely amazing. Won lots of awards as well. So yeah, see the for the defensive Leicester people there, great football team. And I've got to say that because Sarah, who I mentioned earlier, who works with us, we're not sure quite what doing, but she actually is from Leicestershire as well, so better recover that one quite quickly. Right, good. So orange wine.
Yeah, someone just said, how's the process different from rosé? Well, rosé, you're right, a rosé has a very, very short period of skin contact, just because you want a little bit of that pigment, obviously pink, not red. But of course, with a rosé, you're using red grape varieties, whereas here we're using white grape varieties. And so that's essentially how it differs. I really like this wine with the Washbourne as well, which has that rich, nutty character because it's been aged for 6 months, like Greg said. I think, yeah, it goes, orange wines for me go really, really well with sheep's cheeses, Manchego, some kind of old and mature Pecorino as well. But yeah, I mean, hopefully everyone's enjoying the Pinot Gris Wild Ferment. It has these kind of zesty grapefruit, orange rind characteristics. Also a little bit kind of orange blossom as well. And you should notice, compared to the new release, it just has a bit more weight, a bit more body. It's got some texture in there, some of that tannin from the skin contact. And for me, it has incredible depth to it. It has a really long finish, so the flavors keep on going and going. And yeah, a different style. And part of, you know, just like the dairy, and of course, Pete and Greg, who are constantly trying out new styles and we're bringing out the Camembert, we're exactly the same over in the winery as well. We're always playing around with little different things, and yeah, always have a few little concoctions. Some make the cut, some basically just supply our staff parties, but that's what it's all about, isn't it?
So what's nice when you're pairing things together is that it's really great when you have two things that have a distinct flavor on their own, and then when they come together they create a third flavor. And I think that's what this does, working with this cheese. And actually I think one of the recommendations with this particular cheese, it works well with a local cider to Quicks called Sanford, and I think that this has some of those sort of real acidity notes like a really nice cider, and I think that's why it complements it quite well. What it brings out for me is some of the grassiness, you know, and some of the nice sort of farminess that you get with handmade artisan cheeses, because when these are aged, they're not wrapped in plastic, they're aged in the big cheese maturation stores, just wrapped in the muslin. And so I think that they complement each other really well, actually.
Yeah, you do get a real kind of grassy note, like you said, which I find is really prominent on the Red Devon, but less so on the Washbourne. I get more of that Devonshire Red. That's, I'm lucky in a minute.
Yeah, cool, good. Should we try something else? So you reckon go back to the Washbourne with this as well? You were talking about Manchego. Should the Washbourne work well with the Pinot Gris?
The Washbourne for me is my favourite pairing with the Pinot Gris. Out of pretty much the whole Sharpham range, I think the Washbourne and the Pinot Gris is my favourite pairing. You kind of get that sort of nutty character, but also that real creamy flavour from the sheep's cheese. And it really sort of brings out that quite defined fruit character in the wine as well. Loving the natural wine.
Yes, to Joanna, you can call this a business meeting because it's cheese and wine. You're quite right. Quite right. Well pointed out. Good. Okay, so what are we left with? We've got some blue, and we've got some for some people. Remember, it's an extra. You've either got plain rustic or rustic with chive and garlic. So should we go to the chive and garlic first, do you think, or dare we? I mean, what do you think's happened with the garlic?
With the Pinot Gris?
Mm.
Yeah, let's give it a go.
Yeah, okay. Let's cut some up. Bear with us. And so I had that red Devonshire Red with a one of the Peter's Yard crackers. Peter's Yard, by the way, we think make the best crackers out there because they're very delicate in their flavors and they're very strong. You can stack a bit of cheese on it and it stays on there when you take a bite off. So we wish they were more local to us. They made up the country a little bit, but we think they are the best crackers for cheese, which is why we use them. And now what I did was got a bit of the Devonshire Red, one of the rye crackers and some chutney. And it was just gorgeous. So I would recommend that while we're having a try of this rustic. Did you take my piece as well? No.
No.
Okay. Any good?
So I think the garlic with the Pinot Gris is slightly thrown it out a little bit. So if anybody has got the rustic with chive and garlic, again, like Greg and I always like to discuss some of the pairings that don't work. And some people may actually really like it. But for me, the garlic element kind of brings out a little bit more of the bitterness in the wine. Because we left the skins in, it's the skins of any fruit. Of course, we've left the skins in with the wine. They hold the bitter characteristic. So for me, it brings out that bitterness on the finish, which isn't as good as some of the other pairings we've had. So some people may love it, but hopefully you can all kind of see that, you know, it's you don't know until you try it, basically.
That has definitely left a bitterness right at the back of my mouth that is been generated by those two coming together. So that's a bad mix.
Yeah.
But then you've got to remember that might not be the case for everybody because you know, people have different taste sensitivities. Peter, we talked about earlier, has just done an advanced sensory course where they go actually through and test where your biases are, so that you're able to give a qualified view on how things taste. But we should remember that people have different taste buds. I'm going to just have a little bit of pear just to clean up before we go into the finale.
Well, somebody asked, how's our cholesterol? Greg keeps his balance with pear figs on the cheese board.
Yin yang. That's my philosophy. Good. Okay. Well, final cheese, Devonshire Red. Oh, sorry. So I should have said with the chive and garlic. It's the same rustic. We add the chives and garlic as we make in the cheese. There are urban myths about it was invented. Somebody needs to come back in. They're very late in arriving. No, I think they're one of the first in. How do I get up there? There we go. Yeah, so there were rumours of kicking around that the cows got loose and ate some wild garlic, and then the milk was garlicky, and so on and so forth. But you know, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. But we don't rely on that now. We add fresh herbs and garlic in while we're making the cheese, and so as the cheese ages, the flavours get more prevalent as the cheese ages. In actual fact, so Devon Blue, can you remember that?
Devon Blue, I can remember that.
Devon Red, Devonshire Red, Devon Blue. So Devon Blue, made by Ticklemore Dairy, not us to be confused. We have Ticklemore cheese that we make, a goat's cheese. Ticklemore is actually a street in Totnes near where we are. There's a beautiful cheese shop there. And once upon a time, everything was linked. Everything was made at the same place and sold at the same place. But nowadays, we're two separate entities. Ticklemore Dairy focus on making blue cheeses. Ben Harris is the head cheesemaker there. The cheese recipes were originally developed by Robin Condon, who is an absolute legend in the cheese making world, real part of the renaissance of British cheesemakers, very experimental. Started making a sheep's milk blue cheese just down the road in Beanley in a bathtub. The Beanley Blue is probably, I think, the best-selling British sheep's milk cheese. It's delicious, but again, subject to availability. He then made a goat's milk blue cheese called Harborne Blue, which again works really well. The tartness balances off the goatiness, and we've had that on a tasting before. Really good cheese. And then the last one to come out of his stable is the Devon Blue, which is made, you know, as you would make any blue cheese, but it does deliver something different. For me, although it's made in a similar way to Stilton, in that the cheese are formed, the curds are formed, they're pierced to create way for the air. And then the Penicillium Roqueforte does its job and creates the blue mold. It delivers something that's very different to Stilton. I think there seems as if there's higher moisture. I think probably the milk quality or the milk from Devon, the terroir, has something to do with it. And it does vary a little bit with age as well. So I'm just going to have a taste and see what sort of Devon Blue we've got here. Texture-wise, that breaks down quite quickly, doesn't it? But flavour-wise, there's plenty of flavour on that, isn't there?
Yeah.
it's almost getting beefy.
We do notice variation.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. I mean, we've had cheese on the tasting before, which has had very little bluing in it. Still had some flavour, but not a flavour like that. I think this is probably,
That's a good one.
it's a very good one. Yeah, well, I mean, certainly the one we've got here is a very good one. We've got good level of bluing, got that savouriness that comes through, and I think this is going to work really well with the beer, actually.
Yeah. I think for me, the Devon Blue has such a big flavour, and you know, Madeline Angevin new release is quite delicate, very subtle. I think it's probably going to get a little bit lost alongside the blue cheese. Then, of course, we could look at the Pinot Gris, which does have more body, does have a little bit more depth to it. But again, I still think it's a little bit too delicate. So usually we like to, well, I think we've done a porter stout before, but here we've gone for a local beer from Totnes by New Lion Brewery. A New Lion Brewery have got a great history. They actually started in the 1850s, but then in 1926, for various reasons, had to close down. But in 2013, they were kind of brought back to life. So now it's a community-run brewery, and they're still sort of producing some of the original beers that were made back in the late 1800s. But the one we have today is called the Panda, which is actually, it's called a Panda Ale. And it's probably one of the most popular. You'll find it served in a lot of the bars and pubs around Totnes. Certainly one of my favorites. And like Greg said, it's bottle conditioned. So this has been this has had its fermentation in bottle to trap some of that CO2 in there, which is why you may notice it has a little bit of a cloudy appearance, very similar to the Pinot Gris. But really, this is just sort of giving you that very subtle, well-integrated CO2 rather than carbonating it. Like a lot of lagers are, for example. And also by retaining the dead yeast in there after the ferment, you get that extra complexity, those extra layers of depth and flavour. Very citrusy, quite biscuity, which it gets from that lees, and of course a little bit malty as well. So it has that slightly more robust, intense character. And for me, that's what I am preferring with the blue cheese. It has, you know, it really sort of stands up to it quite nicely. I'm going to give it another go, just because I can, and it's nice.
So what's nice about bottle conditioned ales, which I didn't really think about until we had a chat with Jack and the team over at New Lion, is you can actually, it can become two different beers. So when you first pour it out, you're getting that freshness, you're getting that effervescence, and then if you leave half of it in the bottle and then enjoy it a bit later, obviously you'll have a bit more time to work with that yeast and what's left in the bottle, and it becomes a slightly different beer. So it's very interesting. And you know, these guys are great people, but also very experimental when it comes to beers. They're making some crazy stuff that hasn't been made for years and years. And so it's really nice to be able to support them and get involved in it. And they do once a year produce a beer that is the local community all invest into it, and then they get paid back in their beer. And when it's gone, it's gone. So it's a really nice concept. We like this Panda. We think it's a great little accompaniment for cheese and a nice quaffing beer. But the trouble is, you've got to keep remembering that you've got sediment in the bottom, because it's very easy to just get one out of the fridge and do it well. Yeah,
it brings out a real kind of that rich, warm, sort of malty, almost like a kind of oaty flavour in the beer. You know, it's got that real kind of biscuity character when paired with the cheese.
Good. Yeah, we do enjoy our job, but don't get away without poo picking, which is we've got a dog, so that's not doing that is not an option. So I think if we've done it, we've tasted everything. So probably time to maybe get some input from you guys. For those of you who are still able to type on the keyboard, it'd be good to maybe get your favorite combinations there, and or any comments or things that didn't really work for you. If you want to have a go in the chat, perhaps, or any questions, we're quite happy to take any questions at this stage.
What's your favorite pairing?
Well, I've really damaged myself with that. Garlic. I thought the new release, the Pinot Gris worked really well. I like the new release of the rustic.
New release of the rustic is a good one, isn't it?
I might have to go back and have a little look at that actually. Wine plus beer plus wine. Okay, bit disappointed, John, about the lack of cheese in that equation, but you know, each to their own.
I think my favourite one this evening is the Pinot Gris and the Devonshire Red.
Good. Devonshire Red. Yeah, it works well. Yeah.
And I also really like the beer and the blue, 2 Bs. That's I think that's really interesting.
Didn't expect to like the garlic and chive, but it's good. And again, you know, like the straight rustic earlier, I said about nice on toast. Garlic and chive, really nice to use just as an ingredient in some pasta to melt on top, jacket potato.
Shortcut for cheesy garlic bread as well.
Absolutely perfect. Bob on, Tom, bob on. Absolutely love the pairing with the blue cheese and the beer.
Yeah.
A really unexpected sensation. As Tom said, what I would advocate as well is, you know, just any blue cheese with any stout, get them in your mouth and you'll get a chocolatey sensation that's pretty unusual. The red with the Pinot Gris. Okay, yeah, no one like that's what you like, wasn't it?
What red wine would you recommend to pair with the cheeses? With the blue cheese, you're going to want something a little bit more robust. In all honesty, you're going to want something quite light and delicate with some of these cheeses because they are quite fragrant and although they're quite rich cheeses, they're not overly powerful other than the blue. So I think something sort of Gamay, Pinot Noir, something quite light and quite delicate as well. We usually find we make a Pinot Noir at Sandridge Barton. That pairs well with the Washbourne and the rustic as well, and of course the Camembert. But something light, something quite delicate. Someone did like the rustic Pinot Gris with the chive and garlic. There you go. So it just goes to prove that everybody's palate, of course, is so different. Someone's got a bottle of Sauterne out. Someone, oh no, not really.
Okay, right. Well, I say what, keep thinking about questions. Happy to answer those, but I think maybe we should just catch you for a bit of a quiz before while you're thinking about those other questions. So listen very carefully because this is complicated. Because I confused myself with it. What we're going to do, we have to work out a way how we could actually get a winner and reward you for being a winner. So Tom and I are going to put together some cheese and wine and send it to the winners. Okay, but what you're going to have to do is I'm going to ask you 4 questions that are cheese related, surprisingly enough. You need to put together, which is where your pen and paper come. You need to put together the first letter of each of those 4 answers, and it will give you a cheese. So if you're ready, I'm going to commence. So the first letter of each of the answers creates a cheese, and it's the cheese I want in the chat. I don't want the individual answers. I want you to create those. I want you to collate those. I want you to give me the cheese. Okay.
Is that an acronym? No.
So,
is that what you call an acronym?
Maybe, I don't know. Good. Right. Okay. Good. Okay. Right. I'm going to. The first one is the first question of the first one is how do the French refer to their cheese? How do the French refer to their cheese? See, people are going already. I mean, this is premature. I think what we're going to have to do is I'm going to have to get all the questions out, and then it'll be the first one to come in after us. Keep your eyes on, all right? Keep your eyes on. Don't.
I don't know the answers.
No. It's like, okay, right? Yeah, you do. Yeah. So, okay. So what do the French call their cheese? Okay. Second question is, what cheese is the only cheese to be made backwards? Third question is, what is the generic term? What is the generic term for cheeses such as Leicester, Red Leicester, Double Gloucester, Wensleydale, and Cheshire? And the final question is, what do cheesemakers use to colour their cheese like this, as Tom would call it, Red Devonshire Red?
Everyone's just saying feta. I think it's got a bit tits up, isn't it?
No, it is the answer, but what they did is they guessed it after I said F. Okay, cool. Well, we're gonna select the winner. I think as you want to come back here to the clever dick at the top there. The first feta in our list is. I'm not going to award it to anyone I know, so they needn't get too excited. There, so John. That's John. Wait, John, what's your surname? Something that we should be able to click on it, should we not?
Better.
Yeah! Cheese champions!
Getting raucous. Right, so that's Elmer. Great. Yeah, a bit of paper. Go on. I knew this. I knew this would be trouble. I wish I made that. I wish I didn't make the second one so difficult.
Yeah. What am I writing here?
Okay.
John.
Yeah, John. Yeah. Okay. Just because I want to have fun with this, I'm gonna do this one backwards. So I'm gonna do the letters backwards, and you'll create the cheese at the end of it, right? Okay. Just hold your horses. Anybody who puts it up too early, we're going to disqualify because we're in charge, right? Okay. This cheese, it's an Alpine cheese. It's holy, and you might use it to describe Boris Johnson. Okay.
Liar. Corrupt buffoon. We're going to get a few of these.
This is okay. The next part. So remember, going backwards now. The next one is: what country does the cheese Cashel Bleu come from?
I didn't know the cheese called.
The next question is next question is,
we got the right answer.
Yeah, I know we have. I know we've got the right answer already. You need to make a note of it. So the next one is what colour is the cheese that mainly comes from Leicestershire? And the last one was, this cheese is like mozzarella, but it's filled with cream. So yes, who was there? Who was it first? Matt and Claire. So the answer is Brie. But I mean, somebody put that even before I started the first question. It's like,
I'm writing the answer down. I'm meant to be writing the first person.
Yeah, can I see it somewhere?
You score up a set. You got that first.
Yeah. So just in case you didn't get them.
Oh, they go down one.
Down one. Okay.
After India.
After India.
There you go.
Right.
Who's that?
John.
No, talk one.
Talk one. Okay. Talk one. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Well, that's. I think we need to come up with a new structure because they're too good at that. Really.
Yeah.
Did everybody get the reference to Boris? Emmental. I thought that was quite good. Okay, good. So we've tasted cheese. We've done the quiz. Do we know the winners? Who's talk one? You can unmute talk one. Who's talk one? Who's on as talk one?
Robin.
Robin. Oh, there you are, Robin. Great. Great. Okay, great. Robin Kettle, got that?
Yeah.
Good. All right. Okay. Well, now we're going to sort of we've run out of stuff, so we'll just open ourselves up for questions or general chatter. Really, if you want to, perhaps you want to unmute and ask us a question in real life, but we'll do it one at a time. So maybe do you know how to raise hands in here or something? Or we've got 3 answers, 3 rooms. That doesn't work with so many screens, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody's unmuted. Who's unmuted? Who are you, caller? Give us your name.
Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Hi. We were in Spain recently and had a super red cheese that was made with red wine. Now, just along the road from you is a rather good tonic wine produced by some monks.
Yeah.
Have you thought of
Bucky?
talking to them and having a Bucky Sharpham wine cheese?
Well, do you know, we've tried. I haven't been down there, but we have tried to link with them because we think it'd be a nice idea. Actually,
It'd be a fabulous idea, I think.
Cheese washed in Buckfast wine would be quite interesting. We've tried. We probably need to try again. But yeah,
they've got a new boss there now. A new head of the commercial side.
Okay,
try him.
Yeah, no, we'll approach him. And what's the Spanish one? Was that washed in red wine? Because there's
no, it was a bit like the Derby cheese. It has a port wine within it.
Oh, I know. Yeah, okay.
And it was lovely.
It was delicious, yeah.
But try Buckfast. They'll be open, I'm sure, for that.
Open now?
Well,
no. Open for the idea.
Probably still
those monks are on it all the time, aren't they?
Jesus doesn't sleep.
Cool. Okay. Good. I'm sorry. I think I've got some stuff going in the chat. Oh, Matt Roach is our Buckfast. Okay, right, good one. What's that? Okay. Yeah, there's some naughty things coming in. Anybody else like to unmute and ask us anything? Sing a song, tell us a joke?
We're observing of our silence. Think of first.
You can hear someone.
Have they seen that or not?
Okay, somebody's unmuted, so you got to say something now. Say something. Sing.
We're unmuted. Can you hear us?
We can.
Hello.
Hello.
We have some young Brie fans here.
Okay, excellent.
Is it possible to make cheese at home? Is there any way of us kind of?
There is, yeah. I mean, you can make cheese at home very simply. I mean, you can warm milk up and add some acidity to it, add some lemon juice in it, and it'll start to separate and strain it. And you've got cheese essentially. But there are some good little kits out there where you can actually be a bit more adventurous. And actually, I got a little machine the other day. It's a yogurt maker, and there's actually a cheese recipe in there which takes forever. But yeah, very simple to make. So Google it. But essentially, if you just get some milk and microwave it and warm it up, add some lemon juice, and you'll see what as the milk will acidify, and you'll get some curds and whey to start with. But it's a great way to start learning more about cheese making, and you can buy some cultures online. Yeah, it's a good thing to do.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you.
We're so excited to kind of be part of this. It's amazing. Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, it's great to have so many enthusiasts amongst us. So yeah, no, great. Thanks for joining us, and good luck with your cheese making.
Thank you. We'll let you know what we create.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, and
Send us a sample.
And obviously, you know, it might be a bit young to sign you up, but we've got cheese making vacancies, as we said earlier. So you know,
there you go.
as long as you like to,
our Brie fan.
we could do the interview now if you like, but you know, we yeah, but as long as you're willing to get up in the morning, that's the key thing, and you like washing up, that's the key thing.
Yeah, he's qualified.
Excellent. Good. Any more questions of us while you've got us?
What's going to happen to the restaurant in Sharpham?
Tom.
The restaurant at Sharpham has essentially been packed down. So we have built a new restaurant at Sharpham, and we're currently in the process of Sandridge Barton. We're currently in the process of finding a new head chef to go in there and run it. And we've got some really exciting applicants at the moment. So we're we will have a restaurant, and it will be open in April, hopefully Easter.
And then Dan, whose business was Cellar Door, is continuing to do outdoor catering events, and he's looking for some pop-ups as well. So, but he's based down in near Dartmouth, so he'll probably surface more around that sort of area.
God, it's so boring.
Are we on?
Yeah.
Are we on?
You're on, yeah.
He did that on purpose. He was trying to be funny. So Neil, what's your question about the cheese?
Neil. We wanted to know which of your competitors in the southwest do you most think, I like their stuff?
What competitors in the south? Are you talking about wine or cheese?
Wait.
Either, neither, neither.
Yeah, go on.
Both.
Go on.
Obviously, tonight we've used we've worked with products from Quicks, and I mean, look, as people will confirm, I'm a bit of a cheese nut, so there's not many cheeses that I don't like. There are some great producers down here. Cornish Blue, great on its day. Sue Proudfoot over at Wellsborough makes some excellent cheeses. Then you sort of go up as you get into Somerset, you get some of the bigger producers that make great cheddars, likes of White Farm, the Clothier Brothers, Barber Brothers, Cave Age Cheddar down in Dorset. So, I don't think I can nominate a bad one. Cheese making and farming is a tough things to do. So I wouldn't want to as well suggest that any of them don't do a good job, because it's bloody hard work. Same with winemaking, really.
It's the same with the winemaking, and obviously the English wine industry is kind of so very young compared to other sort of more established countries. So at the moment, it's really kind of everybody's so supportive and drawing ideas off of one another, and that's really the way it has to be, because it is really in its infancy still. So we really work closely with a lot of English producers and Southwest producers We also do some contract winemaking for some of the smaller producers who maybe have vineyards but don't have their own winemaking facilities. So really the network of support is incredibly strong. And I think that's sort of, you know, everybody's sort of sharing ideas, and that's so important in order for us to carry on evolving. So yeah, it's really kind of a sort of a community, I guess, you know.
I think it's the same. I mean, they're very similar industries, actually. I mean, you know, recently there was an event held at Dartington, which brought together a lot of these sort of English wine experts and producers from across the country to collaborate, to generally work together to be more environmentally responsible, and also to look at how they can drive the industry forward. So yeah, I know. So not controversial, I'm afraid. Sorry, but yeah, there are lots of great makers around. Where can they get over from Sharpham Sparkling? Good question.
Good question. We might have a little bit of 2015 Sparkling Pink coming out perhaps in the next couple of months. We're probably going to sit on it until we open our new site in April. We have a very, very small amount. Basically, we totally misjudged how much we were going to sell during the numerous lockdowns we had. Basically, we didn't predict the pandemic as well as we should have done. So our sparkling wine stocks are alarmingly low. So we do have a little bit, but we're probably going to release a small amount in April, I can imagine.
Can I ask, we get the Riverford boxes, and I look for your cheeses through Riverford because I thought you used to do them through Riverford. Do you not? Have I imagined that?
Well, Riverford are pretty much all organic, and
so that, right.
So we're not organic. You know, we do things properly, we think, but we're not organic. However, you know, Riverford's I can't, they do have some farm shops that do sell non-organic. Ben's farm shops, which I couldn't think of. Ben's quite simple, isn't it? And so we do supply into there. But you know, we also, you know, do supply cheese online. So if you want to buy cheese online, you go to the website and buy it as well.
Yeah, it's just that the cost to transport was like £10 or something, and I think the good thing was that I lobbed a load of wine on top just to make the cost.
Well, no cost after 50 quid. No cost after 50 quid. It's almost like we've primed you. It's about 7 quid. Then after 50 quid, it's nothing. So great. Thank you very much. You're doing my job for me here. I didn't write that down. Good. Somebody's been to the Pig and Palate after the last session, because we did do a session with the charcuterie guys, which was really good. So that's nice to see. Helen's put dishwasher in there. I'm not supposed to know where I'm supposed to put the dishwasher on, or whether she wants to be the new dishwasher at Sharpham, but we'll chat about that later when I get there.
How's the pandemic worked for or against us?
Yeah, interesting. I think, you know, roll the clock back sort of a couple of years. Well, remember the day very clearly. Friday the 13th of March in 2020 was when things ground to a halt. We had a fridge full of cheese because I think it must have been an early Easter, but we were ready for Easter. And we heard that food service was closing. So that was, yeah, a really worrying moment for us, you know, and we had to think on our feet. We had to be brave, you know, with staff and not knee jerk into doing anything stupid. We have to look after our suppliers of milk. So we did nothing drastic for a couple of weeks whilst we would kind of see what might happen. We then had a load of cheese that clearly wasn't going to be used in retail and food service. So we started boxing the cheese up into £10 boxes and selling it to our friends and family far and wide. And we sold over 1,000 boxes, which helped us just to cover some costs. Our staff were brilliant. You know, they were very understanding of the situation. Furlough kicked in. We were able to use furlough for a little while, but then people like your good selves started to, you know, not have anything to do but things at home. And so we saw, working with Tom and the wine side, a real lift in online sales. And so that meant that we could get back to making most days of the week. We also started doing things like this with customers and with sort of corporations that were stuck at home. And that sort of worked pretty well for us. And then in July, we were allowed to open up again, weren't we? And
it went mental, basically. The whole of England holidayed in South Devon, it felt like. Yeah. We've been sort of trying to claw it back ever since and get our breath. So yeah, although there was a lot of initial panic, I think, you know, we're set in this beautiful outdoor wide open location. So, you know, for those who wanted to get out and do things, we were in such a sort of safe, open, airy part of the country for people to come and socially distance. So actually, yeah, we actually ended up doing all right in the end.
Yeah, and it's the world's changed, which is nice, and we still, you know, we love doing things like this genuinely, and it's also a good way to promote our products, which we're very aware of, and reach a wider audience, which is fantastic. And also, you know, we continue to push online sales. Our marketplace has shifted slightly, but it's also encouraged us to think more nimbly, continue to push and not rest on our laurels. So I think overall we'll look back and say, you know, we were probably some of the lucky ones. We haven't had any time off, which, you know, is lucky in one respect, isn't it? You know, we're not moaning about that. And our business, you know, is probably in good shape to push forward with. So yeah, I think we're very, very lucky. So thanks for the question, but it's very relevant. I struggled to go through that just straight after it, because it was when anyone asked, you were kind of, what the hell's going to happen in the future? But hopefully we're to a little bit more stability now. Can you talk a bit more about your sparkling wines, Tom?
A bit more about the sparkling wines. That's quite a broad question. We focus more on still wine production than sparkling wines. We do make sparkling wines, mostly in the traditional champagne method, which is second fermentation in bottle and a minimum of 9 months maturing on the lees, which is a dead yeast sediment. Like I said, we're out of stock of the sparkling wines at the moment. Is the guy on the left is correct? Is that am I on the left?
I don't know.
Oh, on,
I think it's me.
So yeah, we make them with the under the English PDO laws, which is very similar to the rules and regulations in Champagne. Of course, we can't use that name because we're not in Champagne. We are permitted to use 6 different grape varieties. In Champagne, they're permitted to use 7, but we only tend to really focus on 3: Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, and Chardonnay. So 2 red varieties and white variety. We will be we'll be releasing our Sparkling Pink 2015, like I said, probably in April. And then we have a few other sparklings that will be coming online in a few years' time. Unfortunately, because of the nature and rules and regulations and how we make this style of wine, it can take a long time. So we have our first ever Blanc de Blanc, which means white from white, so a white wine made from our Chardonnay white variety. Minimum of 9 months aging on the lees, and the fruit was from 2020. So technically, come I think July, we could release it, but we don't release our sparkling wines unless they taste great and, you know, the harmony is there. So sometimes we could be looking at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years before we release a wine like that. So yeah, you'll have to be patient, I'm afraid.
Where would the furthest place we ship cheese? Well, some of our customers take some of our Ferment cheese, not our soft cheeses, but our Ferment cheeses to Australia, in the States. Andrew Moon, who's the new owner of Sharpham Wine, Sandridge Barton, lives in the Cayman Islands, and or mainly lives in the Cayman Islands, and he showed me pictures recently of our cheese getting out there. So it gets around a bit, not necessarily from our doing, because we only supply to UK wholesalers mainly, and then they'll take it on from there. Is there going to be an opening event for the new site, Tom?
There will be an opening event when we can pin the builders down to a day when they're going to be finished, so we can decide on the opening date. But yeah, so if anybody follows any of our social media channels, or of course keeps up to date on our website, I would say come mid to end of March, if you sort of keep an eye, then we're going to start to release some opening dates and potentially a few events as well. Obviously the priority for us is getting the site built and getting it fully functioning, because it's going to be so different to the way, you know, everything's going to be, for those who visited us at Sharpham, it's going to be so different. So we will have numerous opening events, and
every day's a party.
Every day's a party.
Charles Place, there's a hand up. Is that still a current hand? Have you still got a question, or have we done your question? So no, they're now waving.
Done. Big cross.
Big cross, blimey. We either got it really wrong or they passed it already. It's good. Good. What else have we got coming on here? So we've shipped Pete's giving some answers there, giving you a bit of abuse on there as well, which is good.
If I'm the one on the left, I think people are mistakenly thinking that I've had a few too many.
Well, I don't think you have.
No,
It's obviously bad light.
mostly water.
Yeah. Are you going to do private functions at your new venues?
Yes, we have a couple of different event spaces. So we will be doing private functions, private tours. Again, it's just kind of once we're kind of up and running and we can kind of get a feel for the flow of the new site, then we have a lot of plans, way more scope than what we did at Sharpham. So we'll be doing private events. We're going to be doing some quite bespoke experiences as well that we've never done. So some sort of, you know, winemaker for a day. So you can maybe come in, and referring back to the sparkling wine thing that we were talking about, maybe you could come in and sort of finish off your own sparkling wine and disgorge it, which means removing the lees and adding, you know, your finishing dose into that. So yeah, we're going to have, there's going to be lots more fun and lots more different things to do, basically.
Good.
Tom, where's your wine glass gone? out of reach.
Yeah, it's been pushed out of reach. Good. Okay, any more questions? Anybody else there? So a quick look through. Well, I think we're
all good.
We're in real danger now of sort of being within what we said from a time perspective. Okay, well, look, if we can just, on behalf of Tom and I, is to thank you all for joining us this evening. As I said, you know, we want to try and keep these events going every so often. Oh, Joanna, great, prime for my next little bit here. So I think we're going to, I mean, it's going to be a busy summer, busy time ahead, but we are going to put another event together in the autumn. So we will make sure that you're aware of that. We will also
an autumn one.
Somebody's unmuted. Got a question or something? Sandy and Sheila? No, maybe no shaking heads. That's right. Yeah. So we'll have another event in the autumn, and then of course look out for Sandwich Barton reopening. We'll work very closely with them on the cheese and wine tasting side over there. You know, keep in touch with us. We'll send you out a little incentive to go and shop online with us, and keep eating cheese and wine. You know, and just like us, I mean, you know, it's there's so much out there to try, and there's lots of events like this that go on as well. We support the Academy of Cheese, which go online, have a look at that. They have lots of events. You can sign up as I think it's a member for very little, and get invited to all sorts of stuff that's really interesting if you're a cheese geek. The young lads who want to be brie makers, going to the Academy of Cheese, that's brilliant. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, keep in touch. Social media is very active, yeah, thanks very much for being part of this evening. So what we try and do, so there's no awkward love you and see you soon or anything like that, is we always have a bit of a countdown. So what we're going to do is count down from 5 to 1, and on 1 we're going to disappear and ending for everyone. So thank you very much for joining us. It's very much appreciated, and wish you all health and happiness going forward. So 5, 4,
Thank you.
5,
Bye.
3, 2, 1. See ya. Take care.